papery cave drift through life, reacting to circumstances, but the rare 10E move with intention, and it all begins with knowing why. Start with your why, because without it, everything else becomes noise, distraction, and wasted energy. Most people wake up and immediately get pulled into what the world demands from them: messages, expectations, pressure, comparisons. They build lives based on what looks good instead of what feels right. But a woman with a rare personality operates differently. She doesn't allow the outside world to define her direction. She pauses, she reflects, and she asks herself the one question that most people are too afraid to confront: why am I doing this? Your why is your internal compass. It's the reason you keep going when motivation fades. It's the anchor that holds you steady when everything around you feels uncertain. Without it, you'll chase goals that don't fulfill you, relationships that drain you, and paths that were never meant for you. But when your why is clear, something powerful happens. You stop needing approval. You stop explaining yourself. You stop second-guessing your decisions because they are no longer random, they are aligned. A rare woman doesn't follow trends, she follows truth. And truth isn't loud. It doesn't scream for attention. It sits quietly within you, waiting for you to listen. That's why clarity doesn't come from doing more, it comes from understanding more. Understanding what drives you, what matters to you, what you are willing to fight for when things get hard. Because they will get hard. And in those moments, surface level motivation will fail you, but purpose will not. When you know your why, discipline becomes easier. Not easy, but easier. Because now you're not forcing yourself to act, you're choosing to act. There's a difference. Force fades, choice sustains. You no longer rely on feelings to move forward because your reason is stronger than your emotions. You show up even when you don't feel like it, not because you're trying to prove something to the world, but because you've already proven something to yourself. And here's where most people get it wrong. They think their why has to impress others. It doesn't. Your why doesn't need validation. It doesn't need to sound big or look powerful. It just needs to be real. Because authenticity carries a strength that performance never will. When your why is real, people feel it. They trust it. They connect with it, even if they can't fully explain why. A woman who starts with her why doesn't get lost easily. She may face confusion, setbacks, and moments of doubt, but she always finds her way back. Because her direction isn't based on external noise, it's rooted in internal clarity. And that clarity gives her an edge that most people never develop. She doesn't waste time chasing everything. She focuses on what actually matters. Your life changes the moment you stop asking, what should I do, and start asking, why does this matter to me? Because that question filters everything. It removes the unnecessary, it exposes the distractions, it forces honesty. And in that honesty, you discover power. Not the loud, attention-seeking kind, but the quiet, unshakable kind that builds over time and never breaks. Studies suggest that people who regulate their emotions and remain composed under pressure are perceived as up to 40% more competent and trustworthy than those who react impulsively. Strength is quiet, not loud, and that truth separates those who seek attention from those who command respect. Noise is easy. Anyone can raise their voice, demand to be seen, or try to dominate a room with forceful energy. But real strength doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't beg for recognition. It doesn't chase validation. It exists in control, in restraint, in the ability to remain grounded when everything around you is chaotic. A woman with a rare personality understands that power is not about proving. It's about being. She doesn't waste energy trying to convince people of her worth because she already knows it. That self-awareness creates a presence that is felt without effort. When she walks into a space, she doesn't need to compete for attention. Her calmness becomes her signature, her silence becomes her message. And people notice, not because she demands it, but because authenticity naturally draws focus. Loudness often comes from insecurity. It's a reaction, not a foundation. When someone constantly needs to assert their dominance, interrupt others, or make everything about themselves, it reveals a lack of inner stability. But quiet strength is different. It is intentional. It is measured. It listens more than it speaks. And when it does speak, every word carries weight because it is chosen, not scattered. There's a discipline in staying calm when emotions rise. Anyone can react, few can respond. That distinction defines strength. Reacting is immediate, emotional, and often regretful. Responding is controlled, thoughtful, and aligned with who you truly are. A rare woman chooses her responses carefully because she knows that every reaction shapes how the world perceives her, and more importantly, how she perceives herself. Silence is not weakness, it is awareness. It is the ability to observe, to understand, and to decide whether something deserves your energy. Not everything does, and that's where quiet strength becomes powerful. It protects your focus. Instead of engaging in every argument, every drama, every unnecessary conflict, You conserve your energy for what truly matters. You don't feel the need to win every moment because you're focused on winning the bigger picture. Control is the core of quiet strength. Not control over others, but control over yourself. Your emotions, your impulses, your reactions. When you master that, you become unpredictable in the best way. People can't manipulate you easily. They can't provoke you into losing your balance because your stability doesn't depend on their behavior. It comes from within you. And that kind of strength builds trust. People feel safe around someone who is steady, who doesn't explode under pressure, who doesn't shift with every situation. Consistency creates reliability. Reliability creates influence. And influence built on quiet strength lasts far longer than influence built on noise. A woman who embodies this doesn't rush to fill silence. She understands that silence gives space for clarity. It allows her to think, to process, to choose wisely. And in a world where everyone is trying to be heard, the one who knows when not to speak stands out the most. Strength is not in how loudly you can speak, but in how deeply you can stand without needing to prove anything to anyone. It is in the calmness you carry, the patience you practice, and the control you maintain even when it would be easier to lose it. That is the kind of power that doesn't fade, doesn't break, and doesn't need permission to exist. Research shows that individuals who consistently step outside their comfort zone are up to 30% more likely to achieve long-term success and personal fulfillment than those who remain in familiar patterns. She chooses growth over comfort, and that single decision sets her apart in a world where most people settle for what feels easy. Comfort is seductive. It offers safety, predictability, and a temporary sense of peace. But beneath that comfort often lies stagnation. No progress, no evolution, no transformation. A woman with a rare personality sees through that illusion. She understands that comfort may protect you from failure, but it also protects you from becoming who you are meant to be. Growth, on the other hand, is uncomfortable by nature. It demands change. It challenges your beliefs, stretches your limits, and forces you to confront parts of yourself you would rather ignore. It asks you to step into uncertainty without guarantees, and that's exactly why most people avoid it. But she doesn't. She leans into it, not because it's easy, but because she knows it's necessary. There's a quiet courage in choosing growth repeatedly. It's not a one-time decision, it's a daily commitment. Every time she chooses discipline over distraction, learning over ignorance, progress over perfection, she reinforces her identity as someone who refuses to stay the same. She doesn't wait for the perfect moment or the perfect conditions. She moves anyway, knowing that clarity often comes after action, not before. What makes her rare is not that she never feels fear, it's that she doesn't allow fear to control her decisions. Fear is present in every level of growth. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown, but instead of running from it, she uses it as a signal. A sign that she is stepping into something bigger, something unfamiliar, something that has the potential to change her life. Where others see risk, she sees opportunity. Choosing growth also means letting go. Letting go of outdated versions of herself, limiting beliefs, and environments that no longer support who she is becoming. That process is not easy. It requires honesty, it requires detachment, it requires the strength to walk away from what is comfortable but no longer aligned. And that's where most people hesitate. They hold on to familiarity even when it holds them back. But she understands that holding on can cost more than letting go. She doesn't measure her life by how comfortable it feels, but by how much she evolves. Every challenge becomes a lesson. Every setback becomes feedback. Every failure becomes a stepping stone. She doesn't see obstacles as barriers, but as part of the process. Because growth is not a straight line. It's messy, unpredictable, and often uncomfortable. But it's real. And real transformation never happens in comfort zones. There is also a level of discipline that comes with choosing growth. Motivation fades, excitement comes and goes, but discipline remains. She builds habits that support her future, not just her present mood. She shows up when it's inconvenient, when it's tiring, when it feels easier to quit, because she understands that consistency compounds. Small actions repeated over time create massive change. And over time, something shifts. What once felt uncomfortable becomes normal. What once felt impossible becomes manageable. She expands her capacity, her mindset, her confidence, not because she waited for growth to feel good, but because she embraced it when it didn't. She chooses growth over comfort, not because she enjoys discomfort, but because she values progress more than temporary ease. She understands that the life she wants exists beyond what feels safe, beyond what feels familiar, beyond what feels easy, and she is willing to go there again and again until she becomes everything she is capable of. Becoming studies in behavioral psychology suggest that people who set and maintain clear personal boundaries experience significantly lower stress levels and up to 50 to higher self-respect and life satisfaction. Boundaries are her superpower, not because they push people away, but because they define who she is and what she stands for. In a world where saying yes is often praised and saying no is misunderstood, she chooses differently. She understands that every yes carries a cost, time, energy, focus, and she refuses to spend those resources carelessly. Her boundaries are not walls built out of fear, they are filters built out of clarity. Most people struggle with boundaries because they are afraid of disappointing others. They fear rejection, conflict, or being seen as difficult. So they overextend, overcommit, and slowly lose themselves trying to keep everyone else comfortable. But she sees the truth clearly. When you abandon your boundaries, you abandon yourself, and no external approval is worth that price. A woman with a rare personality knows that boundaries are a form of self-respect in action. It's not enough to believe you deserve better, you have to enforce it. That means saying no without guilt, walking away without explanation, and choosing yourself without apology. It's not about being cold or distant, it's about being intentional with who and what you allow into your life. She doesn't wait until she is exhausted to set limits. She defines them early, clearly, and consistently. Because she understands that unclear boundaries invite confusion, and confusion invites disrespect. When people don't know your limits, they will test them, sometimes intentionally, sometimes not. But when you communicate your standards with confidence, you teach others how to treat you without needing to constantly remind them. There is strength in not over-explaining. Many people feel the need to justify their boundaries, to soften them so they are easier for others to accept. But she doesn't dilute her truth to make it more comfortable for someone else. She knows that the right people will respect her clarity and the wrong people will reveal themselves through their resistance. Either way, she gains insight, not loss. Boundaries also protect her energy, which she treats as one of her most valuable assets. She doesn't give unlimited access to her time, her attention, or her emotions, not because she lacks generosity, but because she understands that overgiving leads to depletion. And a depleted version of herself cannot show up fully in any area of life. By protecting her energy, she ensures that when she gives from a place of strength, not obligation. There is also a deep level of self-awareness behind her boundaries. She knows her limits, she knows what drains her, what uplifts her, what aligns with her values and what doesn't. That awareness allows her to make decisions that are not reactive, but intentional. She doesn't need to wait until something feels wrong. She recognizes misalignment early and adjusts accordingly. Setting boundaries doesn't mean she avoids discomfort. In fact, it often creates it. People may question her, challenge her, or misunderstand her, but she accepts that discomfort as part of the process because she knows that temporary discomfort is far better than long-term resentment. Every time she honors her boundaries, she reinforces her self-worth. Every time she ignores them, she weakens it. Over time, something powerful happens. People begin to respect her not because she demands it, but because she demonstrates it. Her consistency creates a standard that others learn to follow, and even those who don't agree with her boundaries learn that they are not negotiable. Boundaries are her superpower because they give her control over her life without needing to control anyone else. They allow her to stay grounded in who she is, regardless of external pressure. They create space for what truly matters and eliminate what doesn't. And in that space, she finds clarity, strength, and a level of peace that cannot be taken away. Research in leadership psychology shows that individuals with high self-discipline and self-awareness are over 60 HU more effective in influencing others than those who rely solely on authority or position. She leads herself first, and that decision becomes the foundation of everything she builds in life. In a world where many try to lead others without mastering themselves, she chooses a different path. She understands that real leadership is not about control, status, or recognition. It starts within. Before she expects discipline from others, she practices it daily. Before she demands respect, she earns it through her actions. Before she speaks about direction, she creates it in her own life. Most people want influence without responsibility. They want to be heard without doing the internal work. But she knows that external leadership without internal alignment is fragile. It breaks under pressure. It crumbles under challenges and loses credibility over time. That's why she focuses on the one thing she can control completely: herself. Her thoughts, her habits, her reactions, her standards. Self-leadership is not visible at first. There are no applause, no recognition, no external validation in the beginning. It's built in private moments when she chooses discipline over distraction, when she keeps promises to herself, when she does what needs to be done even when no one is watching. Those moments seem small, but they compound. They create a level of integrity that cannot be faked. A woman who leads herself first doesn't rely on motivation. She understands that motivation is temporary, unpredictable, and often unreliable. Instead, she builds systems. She builds routines. She creates structure in her life that supports her goals, even on days when she doesn't feel like showing up. Because she knows that consistency, not intensity, is what creates real results. There is also a deep level of accountability in self-leadership. She doesn't blame circumstances, other people, or bad timing for where she is in life. She takes ownership, full ownership. Not because everything is her fault, but because taking responsibility gives her power. When you own your life, you gain the ability to change it. When you avoid responsibility, you give that power away. She also leads her emotions instead of being led by them. Emotions are natural, but they are not always accurate. They can push you to react, to quit, to doubt yourself at the worst possible moments. But she has developed the awareness to pause, to observe, and to choose her response instead of acting impulsively. That emotional control becomes one of her greatest strengths because it keeps her steady when situations become unstable. Leading herself first also means setting a standard. Not a standard based on comparison, but one based on her own values and vision. She doesn't look around to decide how much effort is enough. She defines that for herself. And once that standard is set, she commits to it regardless of who is watching or who is not. That consistency builds trust, not just with others, but with herself. Over time, people begin to notice. Not because she tries to lead them, but because her actions naturally inspire them. There is something powerful about someone who is aligned, disciplined, and grounded. It creates influence without force. People don't feel pressured to follow her. They feel drawn to the example she sets. She understands that you cannot give what you don't have. You cannot lead others with clarity if you are confused within. You cannot guide others with strength if you are unstable yourself. That's why she invests in her own growth first. Not out of selfishness, but out of awareness that her ability to impact others depends on how well she manages herself. She leads herself first because she knows that everything else depends on it. Her confidence, her decisions, her relationships, her direction. When she's in control of herself, she doesn't need to control anything else. And in that control, she finds a level of power that is steady, authentic, and impossible to take away. Behavioral studies suggest that individuals who are willing to walk away from misaligned situations are significantly more likely to experience long-term emotional stability and up to 45 higher self-worth. She walks away without fear, and that decision reflects a level of strength most people spend years trying to understand. Walking away is not about giving up. It's about knowing when something no longer aligns with who you are becoming. While many people stay in situations out of habit, attachment, or fear of the unknown, she chooses differently. She listens to what she feels, she observes what she experiences, and when something consistently takes more than it gives, she makes a decision that protects her future. Most people struggle to walk away because they focus on what they might lose. Time invested, emotions shared, memories created. They hold on, hoping things will change, hoping effort will be enough to fix what is already broken. But she sees the reality clearly. Staying in the wrong place doesn't preserve what you built. It slowly destroys who you are. And no investment is worth losing yourself. A woman with a rare personality understands that attachment can be misleading. Just because something is familiar doesn't mean it is right. Just because something once worked doesn't mean it still does. Growth changes you, and as you evolve, not everything can come with you. That's not failure, that's progress. And she accepts that truth without resistance. There is also courage in facing the unknown. Walking away means stepping into uncertainty without guarantees. No clear outcome, no immediate replacement, no reassurance that everything will work out perfectly. That uncertainty stops most people. It keeps them stuck in situations that feel safe but are slowly draining them. But she trusts herself enough to move forward without needing all the answers. She knows that clarity often comes after the decision, not before. She doesn't wait for things to completely fall apart before she leaves. She recognizes patterns early. Disrespect, inconsistency, misalignment, lack of growth, these are signals, not things to ignore. And instead of tolerating them, she responds with action. Not impulsively, not emotionally, but intentionally. Because she understands that every moment spent in the wrong environment is a moment taken away from the right one. Walking away without fear also means releasing the need for closure. Not every situation will give you an explanation. Not every person will understand your decision. Not every ending will feel complete. And she is okay with that. She doesn't wait for permission to move on. She creates her own closure by choosing herself, by deciding that her peace matters more than unanswered questions. There is a deep level of self-respect behind her ability to walk away. She knows her value, not in a superficial way, but in a grounded, internal way. She understands what she brings, what she deserves, and what she will no longer tolerate. That clarity removes hesitation. When you truly know your worth, staying where you are not valued becomes more painful than leaving. She also accepts that walking away may not always look strong to others. Some may see it as quitting, as giving up too soon, as being too distant or too independent, but she doesn't make decisions based on how they appear. She makes them based on how they align, because she knows that people who don't understand your boundaries will rarely understand your growth. Over time, this ability transforms her life. She no longer wastes energy trying to fix what isn't meant for her. She no longer stays out of fear of starting over. Instead, she moves with clarity, with intention, with trust in herself. Every time she walks away from what is wrong, she moves one step closer to what is right. She walks away without fear, not because it's easy, but because she has trained herself to value her peace over her comfort, her growth over her attachment, and her future over her past. And in that decision, she gains something far more powerful than what she leaves behind: freedom, clarity, and the unshakable confidence that she will always choose herself when it matters most.